Have you read a story in the Draoithe Saga and come away with a classic case of immersion after effect? Let me guess, there are questions which remain unanswered even as the magic expanded, adding another layer to the dream. The grand desire to turn the page to discover what happened next ended with the last leaf turned. If you're asking where the remedy for the book hangover is, you know the answer: read another story. But you aren't ready for the next tale, not yet. The dust needs to settle before you pick up the next volume. So you have found your way here. You aren't alone. Even the author can't get enough. As you hear this, Ophelia Key writes on. But allow me to offer you a possibility, a reflection on the tale you recently finished, and a way to revisit the story to ease the story blues. Welcome to the Draoithe Saga After Party. Warning, spoiler alerts ahead. Turn back now if you wish to read the story blind.
Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive into some seriously dark fantasy today.
We really are.
Our sources are excerpts from the book Shadow Crown, and they drop us right into this brutal alien realm called the Netherworld.
A place ruled by the Shadow King, Alexio, also known as Niscale.
And our goal here for you is to get a handle on the really complex hierarchies and the deeply disturbing psychology of this world.
Right, and we're seeing it all through the eyes of a human woman, Sumeye, who has just been, well, violently claimed by the king himself.
Before we even get to him, we have to talk about the setting, the Netherworld itself.
Yeah.
Because this is not your standard fantasy world.
No, not at all. The sources describe it as fundamentally alien. I mean, just picture this. The sky is a permanent plum purple. They call it the Korkra.
Right.
And it hangs under this weird nebular sphere, almost like a black hole sun. On top of that, it is painfully, bitterly cold.
And time itself is different. It feels slower, they say.
Exactly. The whole environment is just actively hostile, which, tells you a lot about the kind of person who would rule it.
And that ruler is Alexio, the Shadow King of Eglifon. He's presented right away as just a total contradiction.
He is. He's the first demon, and he's pure possessiveness. He literally sees Sumeye as his property, his slave.
But and this is the core of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
He also wants her to be his queen.
That's the twist. He sees in her the closest thing to the life mate he lost back when he was human. So it's not just cruelty, it's this impossible mix of ownership and this really twisted, almost desperate affection.
He claims her because she's pure, but then his own magic, his survival, depends on her being miserable.
That's the paradox, and there are rules in this darkness, especially for someone like Alexio. His nature is very specific.
He's not a ghost or something. He's described as having metamorphosed.
Right. He changed into the first demon,
No.
and his needs are systemic. He literally feeds on negative emotions: pain, fear, grief, sorrow.
So if he doesn't feed on that,
Yeah.
what happens?
His power, and maybe even his sanity, starts to erode. So for him, sex isn't about pleasure, it's about sustaining his magic, which is tied directly to his partner's suffering.
So if she were to say, stop being afraid of him, if she just accepted it.
That's the central conflict, isn't it? If the negative emotional harvest stops, his strength could fail. The whole kingdom might be at risk.
Which brings us to Asmodeus's laws. Because they seem, on the surface, to limit this kind of evil.
They do, and it's confusing. They state that demons are naturally attractive to human females, but there are these big restrictions. Never kill for the thrill, never harm a child, and never harm a lesser.
And the really big one, before claiming, is that sex has to be consensual. And even then, it's limited to oral or anal until a mate is formally claimed.
Exactly. And that rule is there to prevent what they call the taint.
The taint.
Yeah. If a demon gets too involved in non-consensual acts without a proper bond, sex becomes like a drug. It leads to ruin, loss of power, subjugation. These laws aren't really to protect humans, they're to protect the demonic power structure from itself.
Okay, but Alexio claims Sumeye immediately and brutally. He locks the union, says he loves her fear. So how does he get around that consent law?
This is where the logic gets incredibly twisted.
I can imagine.
He says she consented by default.
By default? What does that even mean?
It means he saw her submission, her lack of a physical fight. He interpreted that as a form of acceptance. To him, her resignation was her consent.
That's horrifying.
It is. And he even claims that by being the first, he held her honor. He knows she was terrified. But for him, the legality is all about her status. She's his property, his future queen, so she's outside the rules that might protect, say, a lesser.
And that distinction between a human slave and a lesser becomes so important when they leave his castle, Iglophon, and go to the border bazaar.
Right, because this is where you see the contrast between the chaos of the Netherworld and the order Alexio imposes. The bazaar is full of life, colorful, but it has to be policed fiercely.
By wargs, the shifters, and Alexio's own men.
Because the sources say, and this is a direct quote, what was illegal was exceptionally evil. He's using harsh law to stop things from becoming total anarchy.
And Sumeye sees this hierarchy in action. She sees a small, mute, lesser woman being auctioned.
And lessers are, they're the primitive inhabitants. No magic, barely considered people. And Sumeye is just distraught. She sees herself in this girl and asks Alexio if the girl will be like me.
And his reaction is the first real sign of that contradiction you mentioned.
It really is. He doesn't even hesitate. He just steps in, triples the bid, and buys the girl, Ada, right there.
But not out of kindness.
No, his reasoning is cold, pragmatic. Sumeye needs a companion to help her adjust and take care of her, and he has a kingdom to run. It's about control, not charity. But it does give Ada a protection she wouldn't have had otherwise.
He buys a slave to comfort his own slave. But then almost immediately after, we see the other side of his justice. The brutal side at the war garrison.
Oh yeah, this scene it's the definitive statement on the law in Iglophon. Alexio confronts a tainted demon, Giulio, who was caught raping a lesser.
And that's a violation of that core law. No one harmed a lesser.
The one absolute rule. Giulio broke one of the demon lord's foundational decrees.
And the punishment is just terrifying.
He gives Giulio a choice that's not really a choice. Death or eternal service.
He chooses service, obviously.
He does. And Alexio takes his sword and carves his brand AA for Alexio Asmodai right into Giulio's chest. Then he casts a shadow seal on it to bind him.
But that's not the worst part.
No. The final act is the execution of Giulio's manhood. He just leaves it on the street as a public message. It forces the demon into this eternal marked subjugation.
Wow. And that's the moment that has to make you stop and just process the dissonance here. He committed a sexually violent act on Sumeye, his property.
Right.
But then he executes another demon for a similar act against a speechless lesser.
And that proves it, doesn't it? Morality in this world is completely secondary to status and control.
It's all about who you are in the hierarchy.
Exactly. Sumeye is a claimed being. Her pain is literally food for Alexio's magic, and she's under his protection, even if that protection is abusive. Giulio harmed a lesser, a creature whose vulnerability gives it this strange, absolute legal protection from the top. Sumeye is even told she is less than the lessers because she can be used by Alexio, but his ownership also shields her from what happened to Giulio.
It's a difficult idea to wrap your head around. But let's shift from that public horror back to the castle, back to Iglophon. What happens when they get home?
This is where we get a really fascinating look at the culture shock. I mean, the castle has swords and horses, it's very medieval.
But Alexio has been to the human world, the Damhain.
No.
He knows about cars.
It tells you this is a world where timelines and technologies just coexist. It's strange.
And we get this detail about Alexio that is, frankly, just absurd. He's an aberration among demons.
Because he needs his food cooked.
Yeah. Demons eat raw meat, but he doesn't. Wait, so the Shadow King, Lord of Despair, is in the kitchen making soup.
I love that detail. It makes him so much more complex. He's the only one who knows how to cook. He makes soup from crow buzzard, which is apparently like chicken. The king is cooking for himself and his new consort.
And that little crack of domesticity, that's where Sumeye starts to have an influence, isn't it?
A quiet one, yes. She is technically a slave, but she starts to humanize her own little corner of the world.
Starting with Ada, the lesser girl.
Right. She remembers sign language from school and starts using it to talk to the mute girl, which is just an incredible gift of connection in a world like that. And then she expands it. She teaches the other 7 male lessers, gives them all names.
Mustafa, Yasin, Halil.
Names they never had before. They were just objects, servants. Now, because of her, they have identities.
And this quiet revolution is happening at the same time Alexio is thinking bigger. He gathers his men, his 6 princes.
And he realizes his lonely existence is being mirrored by them. They're all solitary because they follow his example.
He says the castle lacks a feminine element.
It's a huge shift, politically and domestically. He orders them all to find consorts. preferably submissive women who will consent easily so they can start building a proper court.
But that's a massive undertaking. You can't just bring in a bunch of human women without a plan.
Precisely. Alexio's already spent a fortune on Sumeye, so he orders his men to expand the kingdom's entire food base.
Breeding the mare he bought for her, collecting live crow buzzards and jackalopes.
And growing vegetables, because the lessers only eat vegetables. And the sources point out the men are really excited about the crow buzzard eggs, which are apparently like truffles to demons.
Like military strategy for domestic farming.
It is. The whole kingdom is shifting to support this new court. But Sumeye has no idea about the power she actually holds. Not until her quiet influence teaching sign language causes a huge confrontation.
And this is the moment everything changes for her.
Instantly. Vasile, one of the princes, finds his servant, Yesin, using sign language. And he is furious. He starts screaming that it's unacceptable and throws a heavy table against the wall.
And Sumeye just screams. A pure fear reaction.
That scream unlocks something. Shadow magic just leaps from her hands. It creates a blanket of shadow around herself and the lessers, shielding them from the splintering wood.
And Vasile.
The lessers are fine, but Vasile is stunned. He gets a big splinter in his arm and realizes this terrifying power has just appeared out of nowhere.
And Sumeye's next move is pure instinct.
Yeah.
She's not scared of Vasile. She's scared of Alexio coming back and seeing his man injured.
Exactly. She tries to fix it before Alexio can punish her for it.
So the shadows obey her again.
They do. They seize Vasile, and it's this act of simultaneous violence and healing. They hurt him terribly while fixing his wound, and he's crying out in pain. The effort is too much, and Sumeye just faints.
And in that one moment, the whole power dynamic flips.
Completely. As she collapses, Vasile rushes to catch her. He carries her to a couch, and then he kneels.
He calls her my queen.
He calls her my queen, and begs to know how to help her. And the lessers, who she protected, they all kneel too. That's the new reality. She's not just the king's slave anymore. She's a wielder of shadow magic, the same power their king has. They see her as their queen.
What a journey. I mean, she started as a slave, literally told she was less than the lessers, and now she's wielding the king's magic and his highest-ranking men are kneeling to her.
It's a seismic shift. She gained her place through submission, but now she has leverage through actual power. But the core problem is still there, isn't it?
He still needs her pain.
Right. Alexio still needs her pain to survive, and her own new magic seems to feed on her fear. So she's protected, she's powerful, but she is still so fundamentally trapped.
That's the conflict that's left.
Yeah.
I mean, she has all this power, the loyalty of the lessers, the submission of her prince, but her own thoughts are still just too much pain. The grief from her past, the trauma of her present.
And Alexio is waiting. He's waiting for her to choose him because the bond has to be freely given, even if it's manipulated into being.
But how could she ever make a free choice? She's trapped by his protection and now by the expectations of her own terrifying power. So the question we leave you with is this. Will Sumeye's new power ultimately set her free? Or will it only bind her more tightly to the very source of her trauma?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. A special thank you to OK Music Writers for writing and sharing Enter the Dream. Thank you for your support. For more, visit opheliakey.com. Welcome to the dream. Sincerely, OK.